Sometimes we give ourselves no credit for all the challenges we've overcome. That's where our greatest strength comes from.
You can't witness the greatness within us without it also existing within you.
So we have to have more of us in those rooms where those decisions are being made in places of leadership.
You have to really be strong in who you are.
That's the one thing I can say, Bev, that is missing so much from our young people, being able to get that shared knowledge and appreciation for a lot of women, a lot of things that women before us have done.
I just want to say welcome everybody, and I hope you guys are having just an amazing 2024. Our job and our core mission is to enhance your journey, and in doing so, we have a spectacular cast. One of our cast members, Keshia Knight-Pulliam, will be a little late coming on, but she'll be here. So I'm going to start kicking this off with our expert panelist who's always on point no matter what the subject matter is, Dr. Mari Ross. She is just a phenomenon within herself at South Carolina, University of South Carolina. Dr. Mari, thank you so much for always saying yes.
Who can say no to Coach Bev, right? Thank you for having me.
Our next guest is one of our youngest on this journey that we have, and a phenomenon within herself. She is the founder and creator of Crash Creative. She is a producer. She is everything to everybody everywhere. Ash Samuels, thank you for coming on and sharing your journey.
Hello.
We're looking forward to it. My next guest is probably one of the bravest souls I've met. She walked away from a high-powered, high-paying, with a promotion in hand, in her job at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, or was it Wake Forest? I think it is. It's one of the two. She'll correct me when she comes on. But she walked away from this phenomenal, secure, institutional position and followed her dream, followed her purpose, and created a wellness empire. Not a wellness business, but she's creating an empire, a phenomenal empire. I'd like for you all to meet of OMG founder and wellness. Bring her on, Shayla. Miss Shayla, phenomenal. Is it Wake Forest or it's Wake Forest,
Wake
right?
Forest. Yes. Thank you so much.
I got the UNC mixed up with the Wake Forest. All these North Carolina
Close
people
enough.
are in the house. That's all I'm gonna say. Go ahead, Shayla.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good. And our premier guest, who's going to be leading the discussion this evening, is probably one of the most phenomenal human beings you could ever meet. He is powerful in his humility. He is honest and loving in his messaging. He is a mentor to everybody on this call tonight, including myself, although he's my brother, but he's still a mentor. Tries to tell me what to do, but we're going to forgive him for that. But he is a consultant to entertainers, to sports, to corporations, and to everyday walks of life on your journey. He is the man, Mr. Raymond Coleman.
Hello, everyone.
And our other guest that hasn't gotten on yet, but that is coming, is And Latanya just said hello from Florida, knowing she's originally from North Carolina. It's too many North Carolina people. What can I say? Miss Latanya Wynn, how are you? But anyway, our other guest who will be joining us, and we'll let you know when she comes in, is Keshia Knight-Pulliam, phenomenal actress, producer, mom, wife. Everybody has everything within their bio, but what people don't know is, how do you create your outcomes? What is the phenomenon behind it? And I'm going to just jump in. And Raymond, I'm going to get you to start off and everybody else can come in after that. But I'm going to ask the question. Because we all know that when you're going for a position, or when you're an actress and you're going, or an actor going for a role, and you're an athlete and you're on the line and the game's on the line, everybody does this one thing: pray. And I'm thinking to myself, if everybody is on the line praying for this job, praying for this opportunity, what is the distinguishing factor in prayers? Because God answers all prayers, but everybody can't win and everybody can't get that role. Raymond, I'll ask that question to you starting off. What's the difference?
You've actually asked that question before. As it pertains to track, I'm pretty sure I have to give you guys a good visual. If you notice that when everyone gets into the blocks, everyone seems to make the sign of the cross, and everyone either points up to the heaven or they get back into the blocks and get into their stance. So my question has always been, okay, which one of those prayers are going to get answered? One of the things that people need to understand, that there is prayer, which is speaking to God, but everyone thinks that you have to be on bended knee. You actually have to be in a humbled position to request something. But what a lot of people don't understand is that prayer comes through your thoughts, your words, and your deeds. Your thoughts, your words, and your actions. All that you think, all that you say, and all that you do is your prayer to your God source, whomever your higher power is. One of the things that's very important when you are trying to manifest, or when you're trying to create an outcome, the first thing you have to do is you have to stay present. You have to keep away from dialogue, not only in your words, but in your thoughts that push you into the future, such as, I will win this race. Will puts you into the present. That means you are asking for something that hasn't happened in the present yet. A lot of people will pray from an undeserving position. That in their mind creates the humbleness. That in their mind creates the being in awe of the God source, so their prayers can be granted. But what they do not understand is that you have to pray as if you deserve, or as if you have it. You have to use the words as if you have it. You know, words create so many outcomes that we just don't understand. Like I remember when working with track and field and basketball, a lot of the athletes were using the words as, well, when I perform this particular, and I said, no, you're not a performer, you're a competitor. You use the word compete. I compete. That puts into the mindset that you are a competitor. Hence, you will compete at an optimum level to bring your optimum result. So you have to understand that when you pray, the humbleness is not the action. It's not bended knee. It's not bowed head. It's not the sign of the cross. Prayer is through all that you are doing and all that you have done in the present. And when you pray as if you already have it. If I say that you deserve it, a lot of people will feel like that's arrogance. Why are you going to pray in arrogance? And it is not arrogance. If you are truly in a knowing that your God source, whoever your God source is always with you and is working with you, you have to be where your feet are. You can't be where you want your feet to be. So everything that you do in your present creates your future. Everything that you do in the present creates your outcome. You cannot put a process in place to create the outcome, but you can do the things that needs to be done to give you your outcome. So you really have to stay present, be where your feet are, and understand that all your thoughts and your words and your actions creates or fulfills your prayer. I'm pretty sure a lot of you all understand, or you have heard, that the most prepared is the one that wins the prize. You can't prepare in the future. You can prepare right now. You can do everything in your power to create your outcome. And that's the reason why God doesn't, I'm not saying he doesn't answer all prayers, but the prayer is for the person who has prepared to receive the outcome. Are you ready to receive what you are praying for? Have you prepared yourself, or are you that thing you desire?
So what you're saying too is, if you have doubt, like I had an athlete at the national championship, right before they went out into the warm-up area, they were praying intensely. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I'm praying." I said, "No, it looked like you begging." That means I am fearful as I walk into this, and I do not believe that I am deserving of this. So already I am defeated, and I'm asking God to help me believe in what I desire to do, as opposed to prayer is, give me the strength to do what I've designed to do. And you just go out there and you compete your heart out. So Shayla, let me ask you a question. How did you have the courage to make that jump from secure to insecure?
Mm.
Because
So
that's what people would call that move.
I think, and many have. I think that, one, I had a reality check on what is actually secure. This whole idea of having a stable job and that being your sense of security is really an illusion. And when you start to see it as that, you can ask yourself, well, is that what I want to hold on to? And so for me, I was really clear that I had done the work and learned the lessons there that I went to learn and the work I went to do. And increasingly, I was getting opportunities to do what I really love and what I really felt drawn to. And, so for me, it got to a point where I started to feel like if I held on to quote unquote security, I would actually lose my sense of self and my connection to my passion and the work that I really wanted to do. And so staying felt more risky than leaving.
Wow,
And
powerful.
I had to release, people will say, well, you need to have this amount of money saved up, this number of months of this and this number of months of that. And it's not to say that that may not be the equation that works for some folks. But for me, when I tried to think in that way, it brought me more to a space of fear. Do I have enough? Will I have enough? Versus, realizing that staying was as much of a risk as leaving, and that it was time for me to actually act like I wanted what I was praying for.
Okay, so you made that call and you talked with Raymond during that transitional period. Raymond, do you want, or Shayla, both of you, can you give us some advice that was given?
Well, first of all, let me address one thing that you said about fear. I want you to understand that fear can be very demonstrative. In other words, it can be an obvious emotion. It can be an obvious reaction to a circumstance or to a desire that you may be trying to accomplish. But fear can also be subliminal. You can create a process because you're fearful or you want to increase the percentage of chance of receiving. And that process could be solely seated within fear. And so it's going to have the same effect as if you do not desire, or as if you have a 50-50 chance of receiving your desire. So sometimes process in itself can push your desires that you're trying to manifest away. One thing I can say about Shayla, and I'm going to say this with honesty, and Shayla, be humble, is that first she was ready. She didn't articulate her readiness, but her energy was ready. She was in a position deep within the recesses of her soul to where that things have to change. I got to do things differently. I got to leave. I can't be here anymore. And she was struggling with what she was really feeling as opposed to what intellectually she should be doing. And that little intellectual piece is sometimes what creates us not receiving our desired outcome.
Dr. Mari, would you like to jump in now?
Listen, you
Because
have
I know you deal with a lot of fear in your profession.
you have two experts that are spot on onto what happens, psychologically. So we can call it, spiritually, but that spirit, that psyche is the same concept, right? So when people hold tight to things, usually it's based out of fear. And the tighter they hold on, the less they attract, the less that they actually get what they want. Out of that, I'm trying to protect myself. I'm trying to protect my income, whatever that is. And so when you let go, which is what I'm telling people to do in my work, then you're actually open to receiving. But that letting go can be scary, right? So to what Raymond said, she was ready. Her spirit was ready. Then she had to let go. And when she let go, this is just my assessment. I didn't know what happened, but when she let go, then she was able to actually receive.
Dr. Mari, I appreciate you saying that, because one of the things it brought me back to was that I still had some fear even when I took the step. I thought it was a leap. And then when I started to move, I realized it was just a step. But my fear was not greater than my excitement and my curiosity and my desire. So people think that like you have to get to a position where you're completely void of fear. And that just hasn't been my experience. But getting to a place where my excitement and my desire is stronger than my fear of failure, my fear of loss, or whatever it is, that's been key for me. And when the fear has been too strong, then I know that that's where I've got to do the work so I can get to a place where I'm ready.
And Dr. Mari, let me add something. She says that she didn't think she took a leap, but letting go is the leap. Then behind that leap, you take steps. So letting go is the leap. And she was ready. She was predispositioned for everything that she has and everything that she's accomplished. It was already within her energy and in the viscerals of her soul that this is what she's supposed to do. And she walked bravely into it. However, in the back of her mind, she feels like there was still fear. Fear came in those tiny steps after she made the leap.
The hardest part is making that leap. I always say there's no such thing as fearless. The only thing that exists is when what you desire is greater than what you fear, you win. That's the key. I'd like to take a little pause and welcome Keshia Knight-Pulliam, who
Hello.
is one of those people, like an athlete, that has to step into a room where it's extremely competitive and only one person walks out with a role. And I know, Keshia, that you've gotten a lot of advice, and really what started you on this journey of discovery that you've taken on?
What started me on this journey of discovery? I hate this sounds so cliche, but when Raymond and I first started working together, it was really, I was at a crossroads when it came to career and meeting you, meeting Raymond, everyone. I was at a crossroads between career, with relationship, with so many different things. Sorry, there's the dogs are barking.
That's okay.
This is
Keep
real
going.
life right now. Listen, I'm doing the best I can today, so I'm going to need y'all to accept that. But I think like anyone, you get to a space and you're like, you have to do something different. You may not exactly know what that different is, but you recognize that, in order to have your desired outcome, that there are different steps that need to be taken. And, this is a journey that I started, about 15 or so years ago. And, I don't know, it was just a space where you're attacking the symptoms, but then as you get on this journey, you realize that when you do the work and when you continue to grow and evolve, that's the secret to changing the outlook of everything in your life. A lot of times people, you're like, oh, if you want a good relationship, you do this. If you want to be good in your field or whatever that is, you do that. But what I've learned is that, you have to drill down. And when you're attacking, the root of whatever's going on with you, and, just working through that and being dedicated to your growth and involvement as a human being, that what's for you falls into place. Your purpose falls into place.
Oh, that was powerful.
Like for me, yes, I'm in a profession where there are a lot of different people. There's only one person or one role or all of these things. And you can choose to look at it that way. But what I know is what's for me is for me and it will never miss me. So I'm not worried about the other people who are auditioning and I mean, quite frankly, I'm at a point in my career that when people want me, they find me because I've become the best version of myself, that when they want me, it's not someone like me, it is me. And I think a lot of people just need to learn that. Instead of worrying about what someone is or isn't, or, all of these different things, you just have to be the best version of you. And when you do that and you're living in the flow of what your destiny is, those things come to you, they find you.
And with that in mind, that meant you decided to own the power of the space that you're in, meaning that it's not about, if the role is for me and I walk into this room, I'm going to get that role. If I don't get it, I have to examine me or just know it wasn't meant for me. Ash, you've just started on this journey, and probably all of us has experienced this, but the hardest lesson is the power to achieve exists within us, meaning that I have to really pay attention to what I'm thinking, feeling, and saying. How has that been a big, because I got to take ownership of my journey now. That's the scary part of spirit. Am I right, everyone? That's
Yes.
the scary
Absolutely.
part of finding the power. You don't have anybody to blame anymore. You have to examine you.
Yeah.
Or just know it's not for you.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Right.
you're the
Yeah.
newest one that just went through this process of learning. I gotta really start to manage my words and my thoughts as I move into an arena.
Absolutely. Yeah. So just kind of to piggyback off of what everyone else has said, 2014, I left my corporate job. I had a 9-to-5, and I was doing it because I felt like I had to. I didn't have another, example of what I should be doing. So I worked there for about 3 or 4 years. And it just got to the point to where I felt like I was just clocking in. It was very robotic. I was just showing up, and I felt like, my spirit was kind of dying every day, to be very honest with you. And so I would ask, give me a sign. I need some sort of a sign to know that I'm not supposed to be doing this. And if I take a chance, take a leap of faith, that I'll be covered. And so I started preparing. I just took safeguard, and, I realized looking back that it was just my imagination, right? Like, you really can't safeguard, because like Raymond said, you got to stay where your feet are. And I think that I was so future oriented. I thought that I was going to be able to save myself, a year before I took the leap. And so there was one day, and I tell this story often. There was one day where, I asked for that sign, and then I got an email from corporate that someone who was my same age, she was very, she was aspirational. She wanted to be a jazz singer. She did some stuff with BET, and she was like, you know what? I'm going to leave here. I'm going to play, on the stage. And she just had all these aspirations. Well, it was during open enrollment, a very stressful time, and she ended up having an aneurysm and she died over the weekend on the job. Literally, she didn't even clock out. She died on the job. And so I remember getting the news and seeing that, and that was my sign. I put my 2-week notice in that next week, and I was done. Like, and the crazy part is the fear that I had leaving. The fear of staying and dying on that job superseded any fear that I had. I just knew I had to go. I had to go. There was nothing that I was going to do to stay there and die on that job, and that was the promise I made to myself. And so since then, it's just kind of been, I've kind of made a habit of it, probably to a flaw. Like I've kind of gotten to the point to where if I am not satisfied with a certain position or a job, that I'll just leave it, because I've kind of leaned into trusting that there's something bigger. And if I let something that I don't want go, that it'll open up an opportunity for something bigger to surface. And I'm kind of leaning into that now. But to your point, Bev, there's no security in that. And it's scary every day. And Raymond, he told me to make friends with your fears. And that's just kind of the agreement that I have at this point, which is why I'm on this call with you. So I'm living it.
Okay, Raymond, I'm gonna let you jump in, because your proteges, they throwing down on here.
Well, Ash, I want to compliment her, because she, we always say things like maybe an athlete or maybe employee, I'm sorry, is a quick study. She's the uber quick study. I mean, she really took this as if it was something that she already knew and just needed to be affirmed that this is where she is, and this is what this is what she's supposed to do, and this is what she's doing. So I'm not proud of her. I'm happy that she finally is in the process of discovering you. That's something that a lot of us have really not come to grips with in terms of who we really are. I know a lot of people who are very successful from the corporate arena, who have retired, and in their retirement, they finally realize they don't know who they are. Now, they don't say it in those words, and they don't really articulate it at an intellectual level, but it shows itself in a lot of the challenges that they choose to move towards and the things that they pull away from. And when we talk, it's as if, how are you able to do that? How are you able to do that? And they question me, and I said, look, dude, you retired. I said, why are you concerned about the challenges that I'm dealing with? He said, because I never was able to do that. I said, well, you got to know who you are. If you do have a fear, lean into it. The thing is that whatever.
Okay, let's talk about that.
Well,
what does leaning into the fear mean?
Whenever we pull back from something that we fear, it grows. It doesn't dissipate. It doesn't go away. It just gets even bigger. So every time that is presented, the fear has gotten a little bit bigger. And each time that we pull back, it gets bigger and bigger, until finally we become so evasive when we're confronted with it that we deny that it's even a fear anymore, because we have adapted that fear into our personality and quote unquote character. But when you push towards a fear, you begin to diminish it. You begin to see that it's not really a fear. My dad told me, it's 3 things that he told me. First of all, he said, boy, don't never say you can't. He said, the only people that can't, who can't move from their neck down, they can't. Say you choose not to. And if you have a fear, it's only because you are running from it. You're not approaching it. If you want it to go away, approach it, and it will go away. Because the confidence that you have when you start approaching things and you take accountability of who you really are, that's the real thing, is that when you actually say to yourself, well, this is who I am. And this is what Keshia taught me. I'm going to use your words, Keshia. And you learn to honor that piece of yourself. You learn to honor every aspect. And the second thing my dad told me, he said, every part of you is a gift from God. All the good, all the bad, and all the indifferent. What you do with those parts of you is your gift to your God. So I always want to make sure that I'm aware of all those parts of self. and that I am truly in touch with all those parts of self. Now, does it mean that I never drop the ball and I'm walking effortlessly through life without any challenges and without any fears? Absolutely not. This is a process. It's like success. Success is not a finality. Learning who you are is a process. If you've ever, there's a movie that I tell a lot of people about, and Keshia and Shayla know what I'm getting ready to talk about. There's a movie called The Education of Little Tree. And when the grandparents get close to transitioning, or in black folk term, dying, they say, I'm getting closer to the knowing. And then when they say, I am engulfed by the knowing, they transition. It's the same thing. You're going to always be in self-discovery of who you are. There are going to be challenges that you didn't have before. Even at the end of time, the precipice of transitioning, you may have difficulty breathing. So the challenges do not go away. You're going to have those challenges throughout this whole process in this schoolhouse called life. And you have to embrace every last one of those steps. You have to love every part of self, because once you get to the point to where you start doing these things that honor who you are, it's easy to honor others. As you learn, so shall you teach. And as you teach, so shall you learn.
Powerful. Dr. Mari?
You know, I was sitting here listening to you, and what came to mind is that success is one of the predictors of suicide. So when someone is doesn't know themselves, right, and they hit the pinnacle of whatever that pinnacle is, they don't know what to do next. And so a lot of times being lost leads them to harming themselves. You see it over and over again. You know, you can name the folks who have been at the top of their game and then decided to take their own lives. So knowing thyself is so important to even staying around to see how life can unfold after that success has been made.
I think one of the most powerful things all of you guys have said, and in particular you, Raymond, which is to love every aspect of you, meaning that I know that I'm extremely hard on myself when I make mistakes. And I've learned to love myself through those eras and not be so harsh on myself. We're in a highly visible world of criticism, and everybody has an opinion. I think, can we talk about how knowing who you are shields you from the opinions of others, and also about who do you share your journey with verbally? Because I know when I told my family I was going to go back to grad school, I was ostracized. They were really upset with me. Like, you already have 1 degree. How many degrees do you need? And it was very negative. And I just learned to keep my opinions to myself, even though it was family. I told my mother I wanted to be a writer, and she told me, there are no Black writers, and writers don't make money. And so I shifted away from writing. And then when I got into my 50s, I actually wrote a book that I'm very proud of. But it took me that long to overcome people telling me what I couldn't do. Does anyone want to speak on that?
You know, when you were
Your village, your circle.
when you were saying that just now, Ms. Bev, it made me think about uh, being a casting director. And I've never had that experience before, but I imagine and have picked up a few things from Keshia along the way, that when you have a script and you're trying to identify what talent is going to be in each role, you're thinking about their skills, their capability, and how they show up. And so when it comes to like who's in my village and who I share my journey and the details of it with, I think about it in the very same way. There are people I love deeply who would have been terrified and worrying the you know what out of me if they knew that I was thinking about quitting my job. So they weren't on the hey y'all, I'm thinking about list. Not because they, don't love me and want to be supportive, but I know that based on who they are and where they are, they weren't in the position to offer the type of support I needed. And so in that way, I just use a very practical application that, I know who I can trust to hold certain things. And I invite those who can hold those things into the knowing. And those who, don't fall into that category, they may be in the and find out later category when we're
I love that.
celebrating.
Find out later.
And it's like, it's not a love loss. It's not they're not supportive, they're haters. It's just like, not everything is for everyone to know every step of the way. And I can use my discernment to know who those folks are and just let that be okay. And also be just super grateful that there are times that I don't say anything to anybody because I know I'm supposed to keep it to myself. But I also know that when it's time to share, that those who are in community with me are excited like it was their idea.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
I would like to add to that, for people who haven't gotten to that space where they can feel confident in, that intuition of knowing when to share and when not to share, it's really simple. Like I always say, when people show me who they are, I appreciate them for it and I believe them. So if every time you share your dreams and your hopes with one person in particular, and you don't receive, excitement in them embracing and encouraging, whatever it is you're sharing with them, then, learn they are no longer on that list. And it doesn't come from a space of negativity or any of those things, but we all have a right to protect our energy. And we also can choose those people. And a really good gauge is, how do you feel? Like, a lot of us intellectually think through things, but I don't know about you, before I even had the language of intuition or the language of spirit or the language of these things, we've been given like that gut feeling. Sometimes you just have this feeling and it doesn't feel right. You may not have the words, you may not have, any of these other things, but I would say trust that. Like, if this doesn't feel right, then this isn't right. And you don't have to get it in loud, shouty capitals for it to not be right. And something else that I've learned, specifically when I'm in the midst of manifesting, or just, pulling in whatever it is that I'm desiring in my dreams, everyone isn't privy, everyone isn't deserving to be a part of that conversation. And it isn't a bad thing. It isn't a slight, like, Shayla said, it's about casting and knowing what people's position or places within your life. And I find that, one thing that Raymond always says is that God answers everyone's prayers. So know that just as you're, praying, desiring, manifesting something, that if you share something with someone that you are, and they have opposite thoughts or negative thoughts, that, that's manifesting over here in the background too. So one thing I do is I may keep my stuff a little closer to the vest, as I'm bringing something to fruition, so that it's just my energy of excitement and desire and knowing and love that is surrounding that thing. And then sharing it once it has materialized. And I don't mean in a material way, but once it has manifested. Because I know I come up with some stuff and people look at me like, really? Shayla, they all know, like, I'm the one who will be like, you know what, today I am going to, whatever it is. Like, I know I'm everything from, I'm going to Belize in 3 months because I feel like I'm supposed to be there, or it could be, you name it. And I appreciate my tribe, my village, because they allow me to be me, because I'm very much that person. Like, I need the space to dream. I need the space to, I'm a very visual and creative person. So when it seems like I'm doing nothing, that's the space from which I am creating the, the life that I desire.
Wow.
You know, Bev,
Ask Raymond. Mm-hmm.
there is a esoteric teaching that your energy flows where your attention goes. And that teaching has more to do with, first of all, energy is what creates our outcome. And energy is that whole thought process that I gave you at the very beginning of this, you know, your thoughts, your words, and your actions. Um, when you begin to share, I want to piggyback off of what Shayla and Keshia said. When you do begin to share, and a person doesn't have that same vibrant energy or that same frequency as yourself to bring that particular item to fruition, well, then, like Keshia said, is that that energy also is part of the whole manifestation realm. Just a small seed can be placed in your intellectual mind, and that seed may not be recognized as doubt, but it's a part of the reality that you exist in real time. And at some point, it's going to come back. It may not come back in a real amplified sense. It may not demonstrate itself very easily, but it starts to impede and distract you from actually walking fully into your desires. So you have to understand that the energy is what creates your outcome, but your attention is where that energy goes to manifest that outcome into reality.
Good. Oh, awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. Ash or Dr. Mari, would y'all like to contribute anything to that before we move forward to the next one? Wow.
Go ahead, Ashley.
Oh, okay. I feel everything that they've said, and I think that that's just where I'm at this part of my journey, is opening up parts of myself that I've closed off for so long, out of protection, out of trying to navigate. And I think, you know, even talking to Raymond, he's given me a lot of tips on how to navigate this space and make sure that I feel protected. I'm protecting my energy, but he said, police your language, police your energy. Right. And making sure that I'm not saying things that I don't want to manifest. So speaking out of fear, right? It's going to, if my attention is there, I'm going to bring that back. So just making sure that when I say things, I'm being very intentional, and I'm coming from a place of love. I'm coming from a place of what I desire, not from a place that I don't desire. And so that's really where I'm at. And that's the work that I'm doing right now.
Wow.
You know,
Dr.
something
Mari?
Ashlee said was police your energy and police your actions, and I also say police your people. And so Keshia talked about that, about, you know, who to share that information with. And so in my world, it's called concentric circles. And so it's like throwing a pebble in a pond, right? And it has these ripples that go out. And so what most people do is they let people come into the center of that circle, and then they hurt them, they push them out. And so what I try to teach people is pull people in as you see who they are. Can you trust them? Are they excited for you? And then they become your inner circle. And so a lot of times we have it backwards. We let people come in. We don't know what they're really about, what their energy is about, what their intentions are, what their healing journey is, because sometimes they're just dysfunctional themselves and don't even know it. And then, like I said, when they hurt us, we push them out of those circles. So in concentric circles, we have these layers, and people fit in those layers, and they only come in after you're able to see who and where they are in their own journey.
Wow. Okay, we've talked about a lot on here, and I want to get to the core of this. We talk about negative people and positive people. And to me, that was always judgmental. And there's been something new that when you talk about energy, it's high vibration and low vibration. Tell me, Raymond, about vibrations, like people who are negative are vibrating kind of at a low energy level, and people who are really driven are operating at a high vibrational level. Like Michael Jordan towards winning is high vibrations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had tunnel vision. He didn't care who, what, when, and how. He didn't care if he had to pass the ball or shoot the ball. It was just about how do we win. That's a high vibrational energy towards an outcome. A low vibration would be what? Give me an example of what you feel like a low vibrational energy would be.
Well, first of all, low vibration can come from someone who's overconfident. It can also come from someone who is solely seated into ego, that they aren't in acceptance, embracing, or allowing of any other energy or person within their frequency. So it's not the success that dictates the high vibration. It's the
Okay.
mindset of positivity. If you are a person who's operating from a low vibration, you can probably spot them, when we see a person who's solely into their self, they're self-serving, everything that they do is probably benefiting themselves and no one else. There's something called collective consciousness. Collective consciousness is when we are all able to connect at a higher level to where that we allow, without judgment and without opinion. We are able to embrace without judgment and without opinion. That's when we become intuitive. That's when we become empathetic. That's when we become connecting to the people. Now, in terms of pushing people away, the first thing I do is I try to understand that everyone operates from a place of love, regardless of what frequency they're operating at. High frequency, if you can imagine, let's talk positive and negative. Positive energy and negative energy. If you can imagine a tornado, if it's going in a clockwise position, let's say it's going in a clockwise position, it's operating at a positive frequency. When it's operating at a positive frequency, it pulls in all those things that are positive, loving, and embracing, and all things that are connected with its frequency that's like and kind to itself. And if you think of a tornado going into a counterclockwise, and then it's called negative. Now, negative is always referred to as low frequency. It doesn't mean that you're vibrating low. What it means is that the frequency is hardly audible, but the intensity is still there. And with the intensity still being there, it pulls in all negative things. Like and kind attracts like and kind. You'll find negative people will hang around negative people. People who are having problems in relationships are good to sit down and have a conference of what's wrong with either women or men. Not what's wrong with them. And so it's coming from a place of a negative mindset or a positive mindset. Each one of those, the positive is considered high frequency, a high vibration. Negative is considered lower frequency, lower vibration. The intensity of both of the tornadoes are the same because they can still pull in. So an example of a person being negative, you know that. We are real good about knowing what's negative, what has negatively impacted us in the past, what's negatively impacting us in the present. We notice negative personalities. We can't identify the negative energy, but we call them negative energy. Oh, they got negative energy. Why? Because they talk negative all the time. If you embrace those people, I was once told by a mentor that I had, he told me, he says, when you embrace people, no matter who they are, they're going to do one or two things. If you embrace them and you maintain your level of positivity, they're either going to try to match you like and kind, or they're going to leave. If you accept them and just and you sit there in judgment and opinion and shake your hand and say, I just try to be nice, but bless their hearts. And if you're sitting there and you're allowing that, and then you're spreading that same negative dialogue when you say something to somebody else about that person, well, then you are lowering your vibration and you begin to take that negative twirl and pull in that negativity also. So the person comes back to you every single time. And you say to yourself, I don't know why that person keeps coming to me with negative stuff. That's because you're going back and saying they're negative and I hate it and I don't want them in my life anymore. And I don't know why they do it, but they keep calling you and talking negative. They keep coming to you and come to your office and sit in there and talk negative. And that's only because you take exception to who they are. If you embrace them and if you allow them to show up, no matter how they show up, and your empathy goes for them because you understand that all they're doing and all they're saying It's because they are trying to find the love in themselves and paint themselves in a way or create something in themselves that makes them feel better by themselves. They're struggling to identify who they are. And that's a very easy thing to see. Embrace those, love them still, and eventually they will go away. I tell people who are on this journey of trying to evolve is that at some point you will lose some people. Some people will fall off the map. They may not return calls or they may not come around anymore. When you learn to raise your frequency, I'm sorry, Al, when you learn to raise your frequency, they will eventually come back. They will eventually leave, and then you'll find that other people will come into your experience, which that will match your desires, match your aspirations in terms of who you seek to evolve to become. You will find the magic is not outside of you, but the magic is in you.
So you don't try to change the circumstances, you change how you view circumstances around you. Would
Absolutely.
anybody else like to contribute to that? Because that's some powerful stuff. Okay, so we'll move on to the next one. And the last one is something that I think everybody needs to know. How do you deal with that? Because everybody has it. How do you deal with it on your journey when it comes in? Because it's going to come in. What do they say? Whenever you desire something great, the universe will always test to see if this is what you really want.
You know, what comes to mind for me first, or where I am now, is to embrace it. You know, so there may be something that I desire or a new client that I've taken on. And in the moment, as we're talking and negotiating, I'm excited. And then it's time to launch the work. And I'm like, oh, snap. Can I really do this? But I've learned to embrace it. I know that it is a part of me that I am still resolving, that likes to entertain the idea that I'm not great and good at what I do, you know? And so it's like
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging, yeah, like that's what you do. So I can respond in a loving way, but then follow up with saying, but you know that's not true. So, you know, and sometimes Keshia and I will, you know, say things to each other like, don't be talking to my friend like that. You know, so I've gone from that place where I sort of like chastise, like, don't you be coming for yourself like that, to saying, now, you know, you only do that when you're worried or when you're slipping into this belief that we've already decided is not true. And so I just embrace that that's a part of myself that is being protective. And that's all it is. That I don't need to give that version of me or that part of me more attention or more of a platform. Just be like, yeah, I see you, but you know what you're doing, but you're going to keep going. Or maybe I use and instead of but, you know, but I just embrace it, because going back to what someone said earlier, you know, underneath that fear, we're still coming from a place of love, because we love ourselves so much that we're always on some level trying to protect ourselves, even when we're not using healthy or adaptive mechanisms for doing so. So I embrace her right now.
Well, I have a little less esoteric approach to that. No, I mean, are we adults on here? Am I allowed to have a potty mouth, or are
Yes.
we
Do your thing.
I mean, I'm gonna be very honest. Sometimes you gotta say fuck that shit. And that is exactly what's needed to work through it. You know, I'm grateful on a lot of levels that I do have, you know, my village to, when I'm having those moments, you know, especially when I can't get myself out of it. Because sometimes, you know, what I know is you want to do your best to work through it, but you also don't want to spiral. So you have to figure out, what I figured out is first acknowledging when it's not a space that I can help get myself out of by myself. And then that's when I have to reach out to my go-to, you know, my folks,
Your circle.
my circle. And we do that for one another. You know, but even just the doubt piece, a lot of times, like I've had, for me, when it's something that's going on, and I know I've learned when it's really for me, when something continues to present itself, no matter how many times I'm like, no, thank you, I'm okay. And for me, that's a lot of times also like if I'm doubting the ability to do it or what have you. I'll give you a very tangible example. So, last year, actually it was a little over a year ago, I came up, how I said, I'll come up with these ideas. And I'm like, I'm going to. So I had one of my ideas and I said, I'm going to buy a building. That's what I want to do. Out of thin air one day. And I'm grateful that I have an amazing husband that when I come up with all of these things that he's like, all right, let's do it. So in the midst of the process of buying this commercial space that I've never done commercial real estate. I bought houses, I've sold houses, I've done that sort of thing. But when you're in the commercial space, it's different. So in the process, you know, Shayla and Raymond both can tell you how many times I've tried to say F this, but that sucker kept coming back. And what I realized is, you know, part of it was that fear of, can I do this? You know, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? All of these different things. And every time it was like the universe brought it back in another more creative way. Like, I told you, this is what we're doing. So I finally just had to say, okay, you know what? I have to lean in. Clearly, this is for me. And what I know is that my angels have never taken me somewhere that they also haven't provided and protected me. So it's leaning into also that space of when you are given these things, when these things that are divinely for you are given to you, you have to also know, viscerally know, that you have everything that you need to be prepared for it, to receive it, to continue to maintain it, all of these different things. So, you know, and a lot of times, if I have to make a happy song to convince myself in the meantime, if I have to find the joy in the most random, mundane things, you know, your brain doesn't know the difference. You know, just how if you are talking in a not as kind way to yourself, you can also trick your mind in doing the opposite. So it's like the kind of almost fake it till you make it, if that makes sense. So it is saying all the things you're grateful for, that you love, even about an imperfect process, even when you're in the midst of something that's hard, finding the joy in those moments, and you know, sticking with that. That's kind of how I do it. And I think ultimately you have to, through trial and error, figure out what works best for you. Because what works for me may not work for you, and that's okay, because we're two different people. But identify, you know, what are the things that help you make it through. And the bottom line is also, like, every day is a different day, and our best is going to look different every single day. Like, for instance, right now, I want to apologize because I was a little tardy to the party, but today has been one of those days. And I am just simply doing the best I can with what I have. We had to travel, and I have children and their dogs, and there are all sorts of things happening here. But you just have to lean in and embrace even these moments when things aren't going perfectly the way you want them to go. And just say, you know what, I'm doing the best I can with what I have today, and that best is good enough.
I would like to give you a slight correction. I think your advice is for everybody, simply because you cannot create out of misery and out of fear. You have to create from a place of joy and love. And what you did was what Raymond calls, and what I call, you got to flip your energy. And that's what you do, and you guys have learned to just do a phenomenal job of. It doesn't mean void of concern. It doesn't mean the journey's going to be easy. But when you have those difficult moments, I will tell you, when Raymond, because I don't really curse, and I used to be pretty bad at it, even though I came from a family that cussed like sailors. In fact, they were probably embarrassed, the sailors. I was in the hospital and they told me I'd never walk again. And they kept coming up each day with a list of impossible illnesses and injuries I couldn't overcome after the accident. Raymond said, every time they say something, she said, just say, fuck it, not me. Fuck it, not me. And although I don't say it out loud anymore, I still say it in my head when situations come up that don't honor the space that I'm in or that are not in harmony with what I'm trying to create. And I think that's a universal feel, and it gives you a certain freedom that this isn't about me. This isn't me. Whatever they're saying, whatever these circumstances are, it's not going to impede my outcome.
Yeah, that
It's
goes
having
into,
that
oh, you
confidence.
got fireworks
I
behind
don't
you.
know.
Look
I
at
think it's because
that.
I move my hands and I don't know how to not do that.
I
don't know
want
how to take it
fireworks.
off
What do
yet.
I do? I want some fireworks.
She said, you got fireworks. I'm done. And I want you guys to know right before we get started, just in case you didn't know, Raymond has had some work done on his eyes and he still got on here. So if you see him struggling and his glasses and his eyes are closed, please listen to the message. Because I just thank you so much, Raymond, that in spite of all of that, you still are coming on and sharing from your heart. I appreciate that. But can you talk to us about flipping that energy and how being in a positive place creates your outcome?
Well, first of all, I haven't had the thing done to my eyes yet.
Oh, okay, my bad.
I'm expecting to get them soon, but they do water at times because I do keep them closed when I talk. Um, uh, in order to flip your energy, well, really, if you understand the brain and how it works, you know whatever thought process you have 16 seconds to flip it, to stop it, and to say that's not me. I don't know how many times during the course of a day I say that's not me, that's not me, that's not me,
Because you
and
can't
that's
stop the negative thoughts.
yeah, absolutely. You have to
And
understand that if you
what do coaches always say? Don't think, stop thinking negative.
you know,
What?
or they tell you don't overthink, and it's impossible because the brain still. Or people who meditate thinks that when they go into meditation, they ain't supposed to have no thoughts. Well, that doesn't happen. You know, it's called dumping. You know, and once you pass the dumping piece with practice, you can get to that euphoric feeling. But nonetheless, you have 16 seconds. Now, the brain works in a very strange way. There was a book out by Dr. Serge King, who had the one brain concept, who was teaching individuals that the brain has 60,000 thoughts within a 16-hour waking period. Of those 60,000 thoughts, 80% are random. Of the 20%, they are repetitive. And so you have to understand, and they're intentional now. When I say that they move to a point of resolve, resolve doesn't mean, you know, you have a resolution that goes away. Resolve means that you sometimes we put in process of things to where it doesn't happen again. So you must understand that we are always a thinking, conscious being. And thoughts are things. I know you have heard that before. Thoughts are things. So you have 16 seconds if you come across a negative thought. But if you're randomly thinking, you're not going to catch it because it's just a random thought. And some of the negative thoughts are so repetitive that it's like listening to a radio. The only time you truly intently listen is when a song comes on that you like, or if you're listening to a podcast, or you're listening to someone who's just speaking on the radio, it's something that they say to where it becomes intentional. So we hear our thoughts, but we don't really listen to our thoughts. It's two different things completely. So when you actually are listening and you actually hear a negative thought, flip it by saying either that's not me or that's not going to happen or I don't believe that to be true. And that actually can happen in a conversation, that if someone is saying something that's negative and they're saying that this is going to happen if you're not careful, you can easily say to yourself, so it doesn't get filed into your subconscious mind, you can say to yourself, oh, that's not true. That doesn't apply to me. but that's okay. It doesn't apply to me. You can just say that, and just saying that releases that thought from being filed away, so it can be brought up again at a time that it reminds you, well, they told me about this. I knew this, you know. And so to keep yourself from going to a die, you have to honor who you are first. You have to love yourself. You have to love yourself to know that it's okay. It's okay if you stump your toe. It don't mean that you're a mean person, or that something you're paying off some ungodly karma that happened to you, or if you get in a car accident, that's something that you done. Sometimes shit just happens. And you can truly say to yourself, okay, debt paid. If you think that way, debt paid, I'm moving beyond that. You know, you got 16 seconds. That's how you flip a lot of negative thoughts. But again, a negative thought only comes to fruition when you're aware of the negative thought and you do nothing about it.
Anyone else like to contribute on that? That's some powerful stuff. You got 16 seconds to reverse a negative thought. You don't have to manage them, but you do have to change it. You have to say, that's not me. That's not my journey. I'm winning. That's what I say to myself. Whenever things were happening around, I would say, I'm still winning. I'm still going to win this. It's only when I can tell you, I knew every time I was going to win, and I knew exactly why I lost. And it didn't have to do with one performance. It had to do with the collective thoughts of the group. And then at times, I would have to separate myself from the group in order for my energy to be stronger. And I could still win. But when I engaged or tried to alter everything around me is when I definitely got sucked in. I wish I knew then what I know now. Go ahead. Any Dr. Mari?
I don't think I could say it any better than Raymond has said it, honestly. Those were profound words. You know, I often teach people to, you know, feel their feelings, right? Your feelings are valid. That doesn't mean they're accurate. Right?
Say that again.
Yeah, they're valid, but they might not be accurate. So you have to check in. Like, is that true? Right? Or that's not me. You know, same concept. So
or in Keisha's words, F it.
Right.
But we all got that from Raymond, so we gonna tell the truth on the ordained minister.
In full disclosure, I was sitting over here giggling to myself because y'all heard that song Shot Clock, 24 seconds. I'm over here remixing it to 16 seconds. So for those of you who are trying to remember, next time you hear Shot Clock, 16 seconds, not 24, 16 seconds.
Yeah. One thing I want to say though, Miss Bev, I know you've put it in the terms of like winning and losing and that sort of thing, but I want also to bring up a lot of times, you know, winning may not look like what you think it's supposed to look like.
May not be first place.
Yeah, because so often we consider winning to be this thing, oh, the pinnacle, or we have to get this award or get this, but we don't recognize that, you know, there's so many amazing lessons and gems that we're picking up along the way that the winning may look like you losing.
And Keisha, can I ask you a question? Have you ever experienced not getting a role and realized at the end, I'm glad I didn't?
Absolutely. A lot of times.
And at the time you feel like, I can't believe, or I should have, or I don't understand. And then all of a sudden you look back and you go, ooh, I'm glad I didn't get that position, or I'm glad I didn't get that role.
Man,
because
at this point in my life, when things don't happen, it takes a lot for me to like get bent out of shape, because I'm really clear that what's for me is for me and will not miss me. So, but of course, like, to give you some tangible examples, this is really crazy, but for instance, leading up to the Cosby Show, I did not get the role of Punky Brewster, but I'm so happy that I didn't. It came down to me. So there've been several of those where, whether it's a role or whether it's this or whether it's that, there've been business
You could have been
deals
Punky
that,
Brewster.
right. There've been
I can't
business
get that out
deals.
my head. No, we need Rudy, not her.
Exactly. It would have changed the complete trajectory of history. And there've been times where business deals, like, one thing about me, I know I'll make some money somewhere else. So that's never my guiding compass or my guiding light. But I've walked away from stuff, money on the table, because I know it's just not for me and it's just not right. And it's been the best decision that I've ever made. So, you really just have to trust that gut. And, in this particular, I won't get into the details of it, situation that I'm thinking about, I was just so clear. I'm like, this doesn't feel right in my spirit. This is not where I desire to be. This is not where I'm supposed to be. And no amount of money is worth that. And, a lot of people were like, well, you should but you earned, it's okay. You can keep it. And that was one of the best decisions I've ever made.
I agree.
Ash?
I think one of the biggest
Oh,
gifts
go
you
ahead.
can get, one of the biggest gifts you can give yourself is to expand your idea of what winning is. Before I left my full-time job that you mentioned earlier at Wake Forest, I didn't get a promotion. I got turned down for one. But that no dug me deeper into my readiness to move on.
Because that wasn't where you
And
were supposed to be. And your angels
and
were like, I keep
right.
telling you.
And they also, and I know that Spirit is also gracious enough to
Yes.
understand who we are and what we need to take the next step. So they Shayla proofed it for me, because had I gotten the promotion, I would have overstayed my visit.
And
So
angels have a way.
the so-called loss actually is what really ushered
Was your
me
win.
into a different position that gave me the platform to, in the present, do all the things that really not laid the foundation, but sort of like put the seal on the foundation for me to do exactly what I'm doing now. I took pay cuts and what some people would have thought would be financial losses that were returned 2-3 times more. So it's like, when you recognize that winning is a broad concept that you get to define, and your bag is really your energy, then you'll never chase another bag, because resources and opportunities will follow you. You won't have to chase them.
Awesome. Well, we're at the end of our show. We've actually kind of gone over, and I don't really care. I want to finish this, and we'll start with you, Ash. Of everyone, I'm sorry, y'all. I don't get it. Keshia, leave me alone. I'm gonna put my hands down. I keep trying to put them underneath my legs so they don't move, but I talk with my hands.
Baby step, do it again. Do it again.
I can't help it.
That's
Stop,
because
leave me alone.
you
Now,
got
because I
high
want to do it, it won't do it. So
that's the high vibration emoji.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the
So let's give everybody some words from your heart on departure. We'll start with you, Ash.
Everything has been on point, as usual. But one thing that I would say that is probably the most recurring feeling that I've had throughout this whole conversation is, I'm having to reframe a lot of the thoughts that I've had and my belief system on certain things. So there was a point made earlier in the conversation about, doubt and just how we approach that and how we respond to that. And I think before I thought that there was a way to overcome that. But now I am at a point where I embrace that, and I know that I have to honor myself, right? So that to me is when you check the pulse. When I check the pulse of where I'm at, the situation that I'm being presented with, I always say, am I honoring myself in this? Am I diminishing my worth? And I always get the answer because, sometimes we want something so bad, we think we want it because of money or because of the opportunity or whatever the reason is. And I feel like there have been so many examples that I know that I have put myself in the back seat when I knew I shouldn't have been there. Point blank, period. I accept it. I understand it. And I made a promise to myself. again. I'll never do it again. Everybody else, I've been let down by so many other people, but I'll never do it to myself from this day forward. And to me, that is how I approach doubt. That's how I approach, the lack of confidence or whatever it is that I'm being presented with is I got to honor me. So, and everything else will fall into place.
Shayla, Keshia, your departing words.
Go, Keish.
That's a best friend for you, huh? Go, Keish. You go first.
I was typing a comment in the chat. I didn't want to multitask.
Listen, I need to not learn that. I need to get that together with my life today because it has been a day. There's so many things that I would say. At the end of the day, one thing that I always love to tell people is that your mission, your purpose, when it was given to you, it wasn't a conference call. So I feel like a lot of times people are so, specifically in this society right now, people are always so concerned with what everyone else is doing or not doing and what it looks like. We live in this world of social media where people are living in snapshots that aren't accurate depictions of really what their life is or just what is real. So, I would inspire people to live in your authenticity and live in your purpose. And when you follow your purpose, the rest comes. A lot of times this society is about like the money and the fame or the this or the that. But ultimately, redefine what winning looks like for you. Because for me, winning is the freedom to enjoy my life on my terms. It's to, be able to do projects I love, to travel, to be present with my children, to do all of these things. And, that may mean at times turning down jobs or opportunities that may come with fame or fortune or this or that, but aren't in alignment with what the goals are and the priorities are for our family. And I always keep that to the forefront. It's definitely about honesty, authenticity, integrity, and just showing up. You are creating your legacy every single day. People speak of legacy, they speak of, all of these things that they want to kind of show or leave behind. But a lot of times people forget that it's what you do in every waking moment of your life that becomes a collection of who you are and what you've achieved. So when you're present in this moment, then when you look behind, you build memories that are consistent with what your desires are. So that's really what this life is about. It's about how are you living your purpose? How are you paying it forward? How are you helping others? How are you lifting as you climb? And how are you enjoying every moment of every day? And what that looks like to you may look very different and should look very different than the next person. So, I don't know. That's about all I got for today. I'm just trying to make it to feed my kids in a second.
I'm gonna piggyback off of you.
I'm gonna have eyes over here like money. So I'm just doing the best I can today.
No, you said something very powerful that I want to put an emphasis on, which is it's who you are before what you've done. Because a lot of times we put our resume before our personal character and citizenship. And who we are will tell the story of what we've done. Mm-hmm. More importantly, that leaves Shayla, you're up.
So I want to thank Chelsea for telling us how to get the fireworks. I'm going to see if it works. So she said 2 thumbs up makes the fireworks come on the screen. Okay, Chelsea, that didn't work. But I tried it. So for some reason, this is coming up, I think because I'm thinking about the athletes, former and current, who may tune into this at some point, and that who you are is enough in this society that puts us in spaces where there's these linear thinking about you win or you lose. Under that, sometimes we start to embrace this idea that we're not enough. And so I want to remind myself and you that you're enough, and that every phase and every moment of your life, you have been enough. And whatever comes next, you will be enough. There is literally no time ever that you're not, regardless of what you've been told or what you've believed. And if you've believed that, forgive yourself and move forward. The word that Spirit gave me coming into this year was movement, regardless of the doubts, regardless of the fears, regardless of the chatter. Just keep moving. Like Dory said,
Take the
just keep
next step.
swimming. Just keep moving. And you'll be enough no matter what.
Ah, thank you. Dr. Mari, you're up.
I guess I would leave folks with just the concept of accepting all of you, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of you matters. And it tells you a lot about what's important to you. So when you have those doubts, that's just telling you why you do what you do, right? It tells you what's actually important. And you can lean into that and actually get whatever that is done with the doubt, right? It can be gas and fuel for you. So just accepting yourself for all parts of you. I mean, not with judgment, but with love.
Mr. Raymond.
Well, I guess I would say, in order for you to truly find that vein of purpose, you have to become vulnerable. You have to be transparent, and you have to be authentic. That's that word that got me and you in trouble, Bev, when we was on that cruise.
Yeah, I remember you said that.
Authenticity.
Nobody would talk to us after that. They're going to say, what word come to you? He said authenticity. The whole room got mad. Because they assumed he was saying they weren't authentic because they weren't being authentic. So I'm going to leave it there.
Well, authenticity is that piece to acknowledge and honor every piece of who you are. You have to understand that the energy of you is the magic that creates your desires, that helps you to find that purpose. And you understand that magic doesn't exist outside of you. You are the magic. You are the person that is the procreator of all that you desire. You are here for the purpose of living, manifesting, sharing, embracing, loving, and being a part of this wonderful collective consciousness that we call the human race. And if you can actually envision yourself being a part of the whole, as opposed to being something different, well, then you are on the road of truly defining your purpose. Authenticity, transparency, and vulnerability.
Perfect. You guys, if you haven't gotten something amazing out of this conversation with these phenomenal guests, then you didn't come in with the ideology of growing you. The messages have been overwhelmingly powerful. And the last thing I would say is, as a consultant who helps people strategize strategically how to move forward towards a vision, most of the time we're just trying to help people stay out of their own way, to be honest. There's no magic to that. Just keeping people out of their own way. And I've had people ask me, well, give me the steps. There are no steps because your steps are already created for you. There's no one that can give you a blueprint that can counter the blueprint the universe and your God has not already given to you for your journey. And I've seen people, and I'm sure everyone on here has seen very successful people who people admire and look up to and know they're miserable. And Keshia, you're absolutely right. I've helped people win championships, and I had to tell one coach, you're probably one of the most miserable winners I've ever seen. At some point, when are you going to find joy in that? And winning can be the walk-on who never scored a point, but got 1 point in conference her senior year. That's a winner. That's a winner. because I've lost by 1 point and I've won by 1 point. So every dream matters. When we start prioritizing who has the bigger dream, then we've lost sight of our purpose. So give to everybody that comes around you as if what they're presenting to you is the most important thing, regardless of how big or how small. My goal was to stand. And I know I had to stand before I could learn to walk. And for me, that's been the most important thing, is that every day I get to stand up, I count it as a win. And I just turned 66. And I'm grateful for it. And oftentimes we fight age, but the opposite of age is death. So walk into your journey, embrace that journey. And I just want to say thank you to everyone on here for bringing not just your wisdom and your knowledge and your life experience, but your love and your time. Because those are two things. To give people your time, to give people your time in a loving way, is the pinnacle of what success and greatness is. So I just want to say thank you to all of you. And I hope all of you tune in and share this platform and particularly share this particular show with everyone. So thank you guys so much. And Keshia, go feed the babies. Everyone else, I love you and I appreciate you because you're about to get beat up in the room.
Listen, I'm over here. I just have to, it just is what it is today. And
Hello, Miss Ella. Can everybody say
no
hello to Miss Ella?
Hi, Ella.
That I would have gotten on a flight for, got from the airport, jumped on a podcast. Oh, so sending you love.
I want to
Thank
send
you, guys.
I want to send love and blessings to Ashlee, Shayla, Keshia, and Dr. Mari. Believe me, y'all have taught me a lot just listening to y'all's words. But the circle, y'all teach me.
Aww.
You're right here.
Love and blessings.
Blessings and love.
All right, everyone, you guys have a great night. And thank you guys so very, very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
Good
you.
night.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye.